next financial year. Let's begin where we are. We had Finance Bill 2023, which you supported. Are you seeing it reaping fruit so far?
You know, it's very difficult to see absolute results within the first financial year, you know, of a government. So let us, you know, I think the biggest thing that this government and any government in the future will learn is that when we go into elections, let us promise what we know we can deliver. There were a lot of things that the government promised, and it's of course very difficult to deliver on them. And the reason why we find ourselves in these places is external. You know, we talk about the Ukraine war. We talked about it as Azimio at that point, you know, that it's going to be tough. But the government says, no, we will come in and we will not increase taxes. But they came in and they realized that they would need to do that. And then, of course, expenditure. I think we have this, this urge to spend, right, that we need to also curb. Because we can't spend money that we don't have.
That is wasteful?
Yes, wasteful expenditure. We need, you know, the thing is, if you know that let's look at a household, all right? If parents know that they earn 100,000, then they know that because we earn 100,000, right, we can afford to pay rent of maybe 20,000. Then we have our children to feed. Then we have our utilities to pay for. Then we have to try and save for the rainy day. So you look at that. You can't go now and start looking for a house of 50,000 when you know you have other expenditures that are necessary and essential. I think there are so many needs in this country, from education to health, to creating employment opportunities, to agriculture, food security, manufacturing. All these needs require resources. Right now, everybody who's coming to Parliament is asking for more resources. But the fact is, the government is saying, you know what, we're going to reduce our borrowing by about 100 billion. We're going to reduce our budget to 3.9 from 4.1 trillion. But at the end of the day, will they do that? And I think the test lies in really critically assessing what they did in 2023, 2024. And I really am worried about a country that doesn't take its spending bills seriously and what it's doing to the economy. Because every economy, if you look at the US economy, it grows because of the middle class. And the middle class are the ones that are owed money by counties, owed money by executive, and it is sad because we're not making a clear plan. We keep saying, oh, we're reviewing, we're analyzing, we're creating boards, and I feel that that is denying, that basically the government is borrowing from, you know, it's foreign debts, it's internal debt, but it's also borrowing from the middle class Kenya that's supposed to develop this country and create opportunity. And that is an undisclosed amount because we never really, you know, we say our pending bills are this much. Most of the counties are actually insolvent because they owe and bankrupt. They owe so much money to people that they're really, we're living in a false world. And I think it's time for us to change our laws, because we've created laws that say you can't attach county property, all right? So counties, basically the town clerk, the county secretary hides, he's not getting arrested, the county is not paying their debt, court orders against the county are in the trillions.
So they should be auctioned.
So I really think, you know, you need to reach to a point where people start managing and being held account. Well, and as long as we don't know that. So for me, I think the government right now really needs to look at how they're going to provide for pending bills and deal with it decisively. Well, but I also know that within those pending bills, there's a lot of corruption. So the biggest animal in the room is corruption. So is the government able to plan well? We can never plan well as long as our structures, our institutional structures are weak. And let's face it, our institutional structures are very, very weak.
Honorable CPA Julius Ruto. Honorable Passaris raises a very key concern around the pending bills. And with this budget cut of 144 billion Kenya shillings that is contained in the supplementary budget too, there are fears that it could even end up creating more pending bills or stalled projects, because already some MDAs had started, of course, let's say building a particular or focusing or channel the money to a particular project. Almost a month to the end of the financial year, you come and say we are cutting down our budget by 144 billion Kenya shillings. What risks are we looking at here?
First of all, thank you. We need to know that in practice, the way budget is being executed and absorbed has been staggered in a quarterly manner. What we are looking at now, this card, is it going to affect the first and second quarter in terms of financing the activities which have taken place? But there were indicative intentions and signals way earlier, before the end of the second quarter, to the MDAs and functions of government where expenditure is being undertaken, that please kindly review your procurement plan with after the indications are shown the performance of ordinary revenue collection. So I'm not worried on that, but rather I want to appreciate the fact that for once, Kenya now, we are coming to terms and reality that we must manage our expectation. We must live real to our situation. And the situation is this, that however we've been drawn to run our activities on an ambitious background with, and I don't want to deny much of what my sister is saying, with conflicted mind, because most of these challenges we are looking at, anybody that is given executive powers or powers to spend, most of the time you realize in practice are being driven by other motives other than that, so that some commitments may not be conferring a direct crucial benefit or critical benefit. But on the other side, I want to agree that bending bills is a serious issue that we must address. This one is cross-cutting. It's not an equation of viewing the view of the other side of opposition, of the government side. The fact remains that
it should be
it
fast
is
charged
tackling.
in the next financial
That is
year.
it.
It's
The law
not
is very
even
clear.
considered.
The BFM Act is very clear. In the process of making a budget, any bending bills forms a first judge. What comes here now, and even from the budget, even as we are looking at the current budget proposals and estimates, that now we are cutting down even from the original intended 3.9 to 3.7. It tells us that, hey, look at this. It is time now we need to manage any new developments, but rather let us manage existing projects, let us manage existing ongoing projects, complete them for the purpose of achieving the intended purpose, and let us stop now thinking of creating other political engagements for that purpose, because it is this one that is costing us even where we are now. Well, so for Kenyans, I know they voted this government, they voted member of parliament for Nairobi County, they voted member of parliament for Keses, likewise from Behere. All the expectation now, a time has come that, hey, Kenyans, let's sit down together and look at our scenario, that we are not going to survive only on too much expectation, yet our pocket limits cost is money. And lastly, the cost, listen first,
should President William Ruto
whichever way, but I'm saying there comes a time that we as Kenyans have to sit down and speak to ourselves.
And also as leaders,
and already look at this, of all that menu, listen, of all that menu in that agenda, we have only reduced to critical areas like agriculture, which has a direct multiplier effect positive to our economy, because in under production and focusing energy on production, we are sorting out food security, and we are also creating methods to do it employment, isn't it? And the other issue now is about education. If you look at our budget now, the budget of this Kenya government, Kwanza, is also focusing on education, because it's an area where we want to build our human resource, which is our area of strength comparatively across the region.
But
because
there's
it's only
a 15
this one
billion cut for JSS, remember also.
But still, look at critically, that is a new area that now we are trying also to manage. Because, Joe, let's be frank and let's be honest to ourselves, as where we are right now. However would want to view it and put more blame and put more on this one, you will be exerting pressure at a scenario where the production has reached its...
Well, let's also now get the views, the opening remarks of Honorable Geoffrey Ruku, is the Mbeere North Member of Parliament. Thank you so much for creating time this morning. Even before getting to the Finance Bill 2024, we are focusing on where we are right now. The supplementary budget too is here with a cut of 144 billion Kenya shillings, an admission of revenue shortfalls of more than 270 billion Kenya shillings. This is almost the similar amount that the Finance Bill 2023 sought to raise. Is it proving that raising taxes, these punitive, the so-called punitive money bills, are no longer reaping fruits?
Chacha, I think the managers at Kenya Revenue Authority need to put the act together. And that's why I'm proposing an amendment of Data Protection Act, so that Kenya Revenue Authority can be able to see all of us Kenyans at an angle of 720 degrees, so that we can be able to pay what is due to the government
That's already
Because
contained in
it
the
is
finance
us,
bill.
it is us, it is us. If it is contained in the finance bill, that is fine. It is us Kenyans who are going to build this nation. We will be starting universal health coverage in July, where every Kenyan will be able to go to hospital without paying a penny. We want to proceed and have free education from primary all the way to universities. How do we achieve this? We want to have our roads done. My constituency, better know, there are so many rural roads which are in pathetic situation. It needs money to be tarmacked. Where do we get this money to tarmac my roads in my constituency? We must get this money from ourselves, Kenyans. The issue of borrowing again and again is throwing this economy to what I may say, for the lack of better one, to dogs. Because we can auction our nation, we can auction our future by too much external borrowing in dollars. So we have to find a way of us Kenyans raising revenue which can be able to take care of the common good.
The reality here, Honorable Ruku, is that the fiscal deficit has now expanded to 908 billion, inching or edging towards the 1 trillion mark.
Yes.
In President William Ruto's maiden budget, what does this tell Kenyans?
It is going to cut the budget if we are not able to raise the required amount of money to take care of the budgeted activities. It is going to do that. There's nothing wrong as far as that is concerned. But also, we need to see some serious work be done by national treasury in terms of the planning aspect. Our developmental planning is based on project based. It's like the people at the national treasury in charge of planning do not have a mosaic development plan for the entire nation, so that they can be able to fit properly within our revenue target. Remember, some time back we used to have a ministry dedicated for national planning only. Okay, I think we have to tell the president in the coming days that we need a ministry which is specifically dedicated, with a minister dedicated for national planning. It's an extremely important component to plan the development of the nation, instead of us confusing the development with the project. Because at the moment there is a confusion between the project, that we need to implement this number of projects, so how do we raise revenue? Let me ask you a question. We have Railway City, which is being developed, which is in the process of developing. Why do we need money from external donors, from external financiers, from other nations to develop our Railway City? We can be able to mobilize money, capital, from our Nairobi Stock Exchange. Local Kenyans raise funds and we build a railway city. This can only happen if we have people, ministers, PSs, dedicated on a day-to-day basis as far as national planning is concerned. But having said that, Kenyans, we have to find a way of meeting our expenses. Our expenses must be met by ourselves.
And now to Honorable Passaris, you had an issue while Honorable Ruto was touching about the education, JSS, the 15 billion cut that is now being experienced in the education sector.
First of all, for me, it's commendable that the government is trying to reduce its borrowings from 4.1 trillion to 3.9 trillion. But
the budget.
yes, it's budget, sorry. But the thing is, for me, we're cutting in the wrong areas. We're cutting education by 7%. We're cutting MOH by 1.6 billion. So at the end of the day, the strikes that you've seen right now, right, or in the health sector, you're going to see them within the next financial year. All right, Linda Mama, there is no way that we should cut Linda Mama from 5B to 2B. Women are still giving birth. Have we done effective family planning programs to see there's a reduction in births for us to justify the cut in Linda Mama? We cannot do that. So if we are looking for money to cut, right, let's look at corruption. let's look at, first of all, you know, this 400 billion that we refund on VAT, all right, the refunds that we do on VAT. Who's getting this 400 billion? Can we actually have a scrutiny of the companies that are getting that 400 billion? Because there might be a lot of companies that are getting, like Goldenberg, it could be a big scam, all right? So another thing is, I think we as leaders should be willing to go through cuts. I think the Office of the President should go through a cut. National Security should go through a cut, because whatever budgets we have right now there,
Are innovations that are there still necessary?
No, let me tell you, this is the time to tighten the belt. You know, this is the time to tighten the belt. So we need to cut the expenditure. I mean, security is very important in the country, all right?
Which budget line is corruption, so that we deal with that.
No, exactly. But the thing
you
is, even
extrapolate that
Parliament, let me
budget
tell you
out,
something.
yes.
I love the fact that when the President came to open Parliament, he says, we've given you this big tower. You now have committee rooms here. You don't need to have the number of retreats that you have. Okay, so the thing is, we need to be sincere and we need to be honest.
Well,
let us look for money from us as the leadership to cut, right? And for ministries that are not necessary to cut, even if it means we freeze travels, right? Because really, what are we going to learn out there? All right, you know,
to bring investors. That's what the president says.
Look, I like the fact that, I like the fact that look, we need investors, absolutely. All right, and the investors going to America looking for the investors is fantastic. But then again, at the end of the day, we're also putting a tax on multinationals. So we have to balance that and see what will be the impact.
So in other words, Honorable Passaris, you don't oppose the cut of 144 billion, but you want it to be in the right sectors. For instance, the status budget.
Don't cut health, don't cut education, because let me tell you something. Right now, I saw the president says, okay, let's not have a bread tax, okay, fine. But the thing is, if we are going to cut the budget on education, and now we're not going to provide for the school feeding programs, the parents are going to have to dig into their pockets. Where are they going to get the money? All right. If you're not going to provide money for health that is needed, and I'll tell you, health is actually in a crisis.
Well,
the amount of money that is owed to institutions like Kenyatta University Hospital, Moi Referral, Kenyatta Hospital, in terms of what they've written off, is going into 10 billion. And we're not able to give them that money. So what kind of services are they going to provide?
Well,
we owe money for NHIF. We want UHC. A healthy nation, I always say this, a healthy nation is a wealthy nation.
At that juncture, allow me to take a break.
What does county government are doing in contribution to this one?
The governor said, sorry, the CBA, it's not their part, they're not going to deal with it. I think, we can't have this tossing of the ball between executive and the county. We need to sit down and agree whose function is what and how they're being supported to fund it.
At that juncture, we take a short commercial break. When we come back, we'll be focusing on the Finance Bill 2024. I invite your feedback via social media platforms at K24 TV, at Joel Church, as well on our SMS and WhatsApp numbers. It will be a big conversation that we'll be having this morning. Stay tuned.
When it's a Saturday, there's only one entertainment show in East and Central Africa. Arena 254. Join Aisha Wanjiku and Tony Mwirigi for all the artistic interviews fused with amazing entertainment conversations and sizzling hot live DJ mixes. Catch this and so much more every Saturday from 10 p.m.
Skuzi nimetizi na wakanesa manzi mkamba anishuko mirema.
Only on K24 TV. Your Saturday morning won't be the same again.
Launch sequence activated.
Have a nice trip.
Oh yes! As K24 TV brings you Akili and me. Ubongo Kids, Next Generation, My World Kitchen, Muddle Earth, and MI High on Kids Zone from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m.
It's time. It's time to move. It's time to bounce. It's time to lead. It's time to shout. Time for new dreams. Time for new drip. Time for new scenes. Time to tear up the script. So bring the noise. Bring the fire. We're flying high. Time to get higher. It's game time. It's our time. Alexander-Arnold. It's go time. Holland. It's showtime. Showtime. Premier League, the opening week. Let's go.
Are you ready to make a difference? It's that time of the year again. The Kuza Awards are in, and K24 TV, your favorite TV station, has been nominated. To vote for K24 in the People's Choice Award, visit www.kuzaawards.co.ke or SMS K24 to 15601. 15601. Voting ends on 17th of May 2024. K24 TV. It's what's on.
Have you watched K24? We would love to hear from you. Send us your feedback on what you like and what you don't like and why. You can use any platform to reach us. We can be reached on Facebook, SMS, Twitter, and WhatsApp.
Good morning. This is K24's New Dawn. My name is Joel Chash, and this morning we focus on the Finance Bill 2024. In studio, I'm joined by Honorable CPA Julius Ruto, who is the KSS Member of Parliament, seated on my right, as well as sits in the budget, in the Finance and National Planning Committee, rather. Also, in the middle is Honorable Esther Passaris, who is the Nairobi County MP, also a member of the Housing Committee. And also, the studio is Honorable Geoffrey Ruku, who is the Mbere North Member of Parliament. Joining us virtually is Ruth Kinyanjui, who is an economist, and also Honorable Dr. Babu Owino, who is the Member of Parliament in Embakasi East, and as well member of the Budget and Appropriations Committee. But even before beginning our discussion this morning, let's hear from the chair of the Finance and Appropriations and the National Planning Committee, that is in the National Assembly, Honorable Kuria Kimani, also Member of Parliament, Molo.
Has been a lot of tax expenditures around exemptions. So the bill proposes to move very many items that were previously zero rated to tax exempt. And this will save, we spend around 293 billion shillings every year on tax expenditure. And now the impact assessment of this is that this is not necessarily transferred to the value of the consumers. And so that is why there's a raft of proposals now to delete all this from from zero rate and now make them exempt. Of course now, and that also includes moving bread from zero rated to vatable. I think bread is moving to be a VAT. As we debate about the tax raising measures or about the revenue raising measures, let's have the same conversation about our budget, because Kenyans really like the debate about taxes and about revenue, and these discussions are had with very heavy emotions, and of course understandably so, because the pinch is felt on all of us, whether it's on our pay slip, whether it is on our consumables, on your.
Honorable Ruto, of course, that's your chair in the Finance Committee. The Finance Bill 2024 is here, seeking to raise 323 billion in taxes. And just to begin with, bread that is now being removed from the zero rated, and it will be imposed at 16% VAT. I understand there are hearsays that the president has weighed in on that. But the fact that we even think of imposing 16% VAT on bread.
Well, first of all, as you heard the chair say correctly, it was not only about targeting bread, but rather all those items under zero rated because of the tax expenditure related to it. That's forced Kenya Revenue Authority to be seeking much to the impasse. You know, when an item is zero rated, it means the trader in that case are in the process of undertaking his trading activities. When it comes to vatable items of all these zero rated, any item that is going to be at the sell point and attracting VAT or at the purchase point for him to produce is mandated to be able to run a claim. And as we talk now, there are a lot of huge unfunded pending claims of VAT, which is also a burden. And this is what KRA is requesting, that we shift it from this one to exempt. When it means it's an exempted figure or item, then the trader has to absorb it into the cost of the product. That is where now it is causing an effect to the bread, as this is a staple food for Kenyans. But I'm happy that the president has expressed his concern on that one, that that item has been found.
But where did he come out and express that this one is scrapped off?
This is where
I haven't
Kenyans
seen him in the public talking about it.
Of course, by whole mechanism, you'll be able to see during our discussion from that proposal that he has given. And you see, the proposal from the president is something that can be taken. We are now entering into a season of discussing all this and engaging members of public. So the outcome of this one shall also
even
include.
for him, it's still a proposal.
I mean, this is budget and finance bill is highly negotiated document before it's approved. You understand?
How
Yes.
about Pasari? 16% VAT on bread.
You see, this is where the 400 billion comes that we pay in refunds for VAT. Okay, it's a lot of money. So that means if you're making bread, on all your inputs, you're paying VAT. And because there's no VAT on the bread, you are now part of the group that requires refund. I think we need to scrutinize the refund, or we need to look at what is the biggest input that causes the refund, exempt that from tax, so that there's nothing for government to refund the manufacturers. Okay, because that is the biggest concern. So the government is trying to say that, look, if bread is VAT, if you put VAT on bread, then the input, right, will net off with the sales VAT, and then we'll have a less amount. In fact, we will be paid at that point.
Honorable Pastor, for Kenyans, they're concerned about
the price.
The price.
The price.
10 shillings
but
additional for 400 grams.
I think and this is where I feel Treasury has technocrats. I think it's time that they go on the ground and really analyze what is going on and understand the industries, talk to the industry players. Businesses will always want to make profits. They will always show a figure that is not right. But at the end of the day, I always say, this is our country. You know, as when the poor are hungry and they have nothing to eat, they will eat the rich. That's a given. So for me, I just feel that there comes a time where humanity has to be called to act. We have a huge population. First of all, we need to do something about our population. It is totally unplanned. It is
by doing something, you mean?
By making sure that we also educate people on families are not cheap. You can't have 5 children when you have no gainful employment, right? And you don't know how you're going to look after them. We're building a society that in the end we end up with
through family
criminals.
planning?
Yes, we need to do family planning.
But,
we also need to do
we
education.
are a Christian country.
No, Christian country. Let me tell you, even God was a master family planner. God put a period in a woman's cycle where she can't have to have children. So even God understood we needed to family plan. The Pope has spoken to it. We can't just go on having children, right, without planning. You plan a child the same way you plan your budget in the house. So I keep saying that we need to provide money. We don't provide enough money on family planning. We wait for donors to provide the family planning. You know, if you go on YouTube, when Tom Boyer was interviewed by BBC immediately after we won the elections, I mean, we became independent, sorry. As soon as we became independent, he was asked, what are your key priorities? And at that time, he said, to look at our population, to have a proper family planning, because a country's population has to be pegged to its resources. Now, one would say that if we actually curbed corruption, we would be able to have done everything that we needed to do for the population. But having said that, even Moi Kibaki, who was a staunch Catholic, right, actually said, when it comes to family planning, it's an important thing. Right. So we need to plan. I feel that the government has to recognize that it has limited resources to provide. Let me tell you, we're going to feed the people who are in the drought, affected by the disaster of the floods. We will feed them for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then what? They're left on their own.
Well, let's now get Honorable Ruku's remarks. 16% VAT on bread, Honorable Ruku. 10 additional shillings to the cost of 400 grams, for instance. You know, Honorable Ruto says the president has also given a proposal. Remember, he had powers to scrap it off before even this particular bill came to parliament. Is he lying to Kenyans, in other words? Because I understand Treasury, Professor Njuguna Ndungu sits in the cabinet before such proposals even come out to the public.
Let's agree that we were with you during the Finance Bill 2023, which was also very highly contested. And I think it has passed the test of time. The economy is performing well. Many Kenyans, yes, they may be feeling the pain in terms of putting food on their table. But generally, the Finance Bill 2023 has tried as much to raise revenues to finance
but we are recording
the budget.
Shortfalls up to 270 billion, Honorable Ruku.
Yes, and those are some of the areas where we need to discuss at the level of management as far as the Treasury and KRA is concerned. But in terms of business environment, improving the business environment, ease of doing business, companies making profit, Nairobi Stock Exchange performing well, all the economic parameters or indicators which shows that the economy is healthy, the Finance Bill 2023 has passed the test of time. We have now Finance Bill 2024, which is proposing, as you have said, VAT on bread. Any consumption taxes are not good for the economy. Consumption taxes in the sense that what is this commodity which is used by the household on a day-to-day basis? One of that commodity which is used on a day-to-day basis is bread. Bread, unga, sugar, salt, vegetables, all these things we consume at the household level, whether you are at the top of the pyramid or at the bottom
so you're opposing
of
this
the pyramid.
Particular VAT.
So for me, what I would say is that it is not very prudent to put a VAT on bread.
And because you oppose it in parliament?
Because this is a commodity. This is a commodity. Listen.
How do you want to conclude that that thing will get to a level of voting? Because the committee is coming in, public are still have to put their input before the report gets there. Those are part of the issues that have been addressed. Because you are preempting a scenario like Parliament is not going to do their work.
Allow me to prosecute my case. Okay? I'm saying consumption taxes are not very healthy for an economy because these are commodities which are consumed on a day-to-day basis, regardless whether you are the bottom of the pyramid or you are the top. If you go to the very rich people in Nairobi, you go and find a bread. If you go to the very, very poor members of our community or society.
So it's in every household.
Yes, in every household. So putting that, it will hurt the economy.
So you're opposing it.
So for me, from where I stand,
for the record,
I don't support us to increase taxes on consumption, the day-to-day commodities which are used at the level of...
Before getting to Honorable Passaris, let's allow Ruth Kinyanjui, is an economist, joining us virtually. Good morning, Ruth. Just weigh in on this conversation on bread in the next financial year to increase by 10 shillings for 400 grams. Is it justifiable?
Thank you. Thank you, Chacha, and good morning to you all in studio. And just looking at the Finance Bill 2024, has very well weighed and researched on, and everything on the ground sounds very nice and good. And actually, if you look at this Finance Bill compared to 2023, Chacha, you will say that, or you will tell that at least this time the treasury guys have been able to do a lot. However, the biggest problem is the reconciliation between the ground and what happens at the top level, and that is what we are seeing right now. That is the biggest problem we are seeing right now. But more so, if you look at the issue of input and output tax, when it comes to the issue of bread, I think these are the some of the implementation problems we are talking about KRA. This is something KRA should be able to balance. And just the fact that some of these laws or the finance bill or the budget normally come, and the fact that we see like KRA is not able to implement is the biggest problem, because the issue of bread has not just come now. The issue of bread has been there for the longest. The issue of tax refund has been input and output tax to ensure that common mwananchi does not suffer. I look at all those as implementation issues. And as much as Treasury is going to continue doing its job in terms of expanding tax base and just wanting to ensure that that we don't have some of these problems. Like I can ask, for example, how many bread companies do we have in the country? And is it that the KRA is not able to deal with some of the issues? Are there root causes that is not able to deal with? And why? Where is the problem? And these are some of the, I can call them small but big issues that need to be addressed if income or tax collection is going to be collected just as outlined in the budget. Otherwise, we are going to still continue well-meant budget that bring in very little income. Chacha.
Well, that's Ruth Kinyanjui. She's still with us, an economist. Honorable Passaris, even as, of course, you have a rejoinder to what Honorable Ruku was stating this morning. Also, let's weigh in on the 2.5% motor vehicle tax.
I think when it comes to government trying to raise money, they have to find whichever areas they can raise money. I recently came from the UK, and my niece had a car. So I asked her, where's your car? And she goes, Auntie, I had to sell it because it's so expensive to own a car in the UK. Public transport is what I'm using, all right? And the thing is, they have a set proper public transport. There's going to come a time that we're going to basically own less cars. People who own 2-3 cars are going to own less cars. Why? Because you're going to realize that it's expensive to own those cars. Okay, so government is looking to raise funds. We already pay fuel tax, tax through petroleum, all right, fuel development tax. So, you know, I'm looking at that. I would rather they tax the car, but the thing is, avoid taxing the public transport cars.
So even if this is going to come,
yes,
only private vehicles are
yes,
not the PSV?
Not public, because we want public transport to go cheaper. Remember, we're trying to cushion and help the poor people. So don't put the tax on public transport. Let's look at border border. Majority of Kenyans are using border border. Let's avoid making it more expensive to operate the border border. I know that you look at what is the biggest area where we can net a lot. Now, when I want to come back to the bread tax, all right, I'm saying I understand where they were coming from. The 400 billion that they pay in refunds because of tax exemption is what they're trying to reduce by taxing the bread. I want them to look at the inputs so that they can still save some money from the 400 billion, but look at the inputs, because what will they do when they look at the, if they look at the input tax and they say we're going to exempt you on your inputs for consumables by the public, right? Like bread, for instance. How much are you going to save in terms of refund, and what is going to be the impact on price? Because people, every time they're looking at the government, they're looking at how are our lives going to become better with the little resources that we have. So for me, I think that, you know, it's government needs to raise resources, and then of course those resources are what we're going to budget for. I'm still coming back to State House, Parliament, national security, and I think the monies that we're giving, which is about almost 50% on State House. We're giving about 3 billion to Parliament. We're giving about 3 billion to national security. I mean, there was a time that we had Al-Shabaab and we had all that, and I think there were big security concerns. I think we still have banditry, etc. But if we've managed to curb everything with the budget that we have, let's stick with the same budget for another year, all right? So I would like us to see us not cut Linda Mama, not cut education, not cut health.
Well,
and that 6 billion itself can come from the three entities. So let us also show that we, as the leadership of this country, are actually willing to make those sacrifices. We don't need the increases.
Well, I'll be getting to CPA Ruto shortly as a member of the Finance Committee. Let's now get the views of a member of the Budget and Appropriations Committee in the National Assembly. Good morning, Honorable Dr. Babu Owino, Embakasi East MP. Finance Bill 2024 is here to finance a budget that your committee approved, and now 16% VAT is being imposed on bread, 2.5% on vehicles. Weigh in on this.
Thank you very much, Chacha. I want to say good morning to my colleague. Number one, Chacha, the government is being unreasonable on the issues of the taxes. Imposing 16% tax on bread is a tax that was imposed 30 years ago. Bringing this back is a complete disaster to Kenyans. Why am I saying so? Chacha, if a Kenyan citizen cannot afford a simple thing as bread, then we are headed completely in the wrong direction. And I can say that President Ruto is really messing this country intentionally. I remember during the French Revolution that took place in the year 1789, there was King Louis XVI, who was removed as a monarch, and the wife to King Louis, Marie Antoinette, who was later executed in the year 1793. What happened to, what did Marie Antoinette do? She was one of the causes of the French Revolution. Why? Because when people were revolting so that the price of bread could be reduced, and the word the price of bread could be reduced, she came out and said, why are you worried about bread? If you cannot afford bread, why can't you eat a cake? Then people said, what? Why is she talking to us like this? She was one of the greatest causes of the French Revolution. The second thing was economic inequality and social injustice. So people are tired with the system and they removed that system. And I'm telling this system, the rogue system, that will reach a point where people will be tired. You cannot increase tax on bread. That is just out. Number two, the 2.5% tax on the motor vehicle. This is completely wrong and uncalled for. Ruto was in Naivasha saying the way the cars from Japan will be bought at cheaper prices, only to add taxes on this. What is the economic impact of adding 2.5% tax on motor vehicles? Number one, there will be low demand for vehicles. Therefore, even the fuel consumption will go low. Therefore, the government will not collect enough revenue. Number two, there will be loss of jobs. There are so many people who are doing these businesses, and there are so many people who are employed. People will lose jobs because of the low demand. There will be no business, there will be no supply, and therefore, economically, we will do worse. As I can tell you, Chacha, we are collecting less revenue because of high taxation. Because high taxation creates low demand, which leads to low supply when you go to the demand and supply curve. And therefore, lastly, this government is a rogue government, should not be supported, because this government is killing its own citizens. There is no difference between this government and the last regime and the previous regimes. In fact, this is the worst government ever.
Honorable Babu, CPA Ruto is here, and I believe Honorable CPA Ruto, being a member of the Finance Committee, you're going to finance a budget that the Budget Committee approved. That is it. A question to Dr. Babu, perhaps.
I think Babu has come out clear that he has intention to run the governorship of this city, great city of Nairobi. He will be an executive, and I'm sure the story will be different from what he's talking about now in terms of politics. Nonetheless, to say, first of all, I think it is good that we be candid that this finance bill of 2024 comes with a lot of benefits more than even as we evaluate. Look at the issues other than in netting almost every person to contribute, like people who supply the small-scale suppliers of government suppliers under withholding taxes, employment income, those who are in employment. The issues of shift, the issues of affordable housing now is a deductible expenditure.
Do you have a question for Babu before I let him go?
All right, okay. Not much on Babu, because Babu, at the end of the day, he should be able to tell us now the budget they are discussing and they are bringing out to the floor of the House. How are they going to bring out that budget, cut it down much, so that we reduce the taxes on the other side and be able to have a zero balance? Isn't it? So you should be able to tell us today, or because the extrapolation of that budget indicates 1.1 trillion of that budget goes to wage bill, 1.2 trillion of that budget goes to servicing the debts. 400 billion of that budget goes to financing the devolution. Of some of that one, it comes already to 2.7 trillion, even without including bending bills, without including any new developments in the country. You should be able to bring out and extrapolate and say, look at this. Unless we stop developing the country, sort out wage bill, and go home and sort out our debts, then we manage the issues of finance bill.
Honorable Ruku, quickly, a question to Dr. Babu.
What question?
As a member of the Budget Committee and is opposing this bill already.
Chacha, four factors of production need to be addressed by the finance bill. If they are being enhanced by the finance bill, then finance bill is within the right position. But if there is any aspect of the four-factor of production which is being hampered because finance bill, then that section of finance bill, we need to take care of it.
Well,
this is the basic principles of the economics.
To wind up.
The four engines of the economy is rand, entrepreneurship, labor, and capital. So we need to see how these four engines of the economy are being enhanced by the finance bill.
Quickly, Dr. Babu, in a minute, as we wind up, respond to what CPA Ruto is concerned with this morning.
I think Honorable Ruto is not just being honest with Kenyan citizens because he must serve his boss. Number one, we don't need to cut down the budget. We need to cut down corruption. When you cut down the budget, more hospitals won't be built, more doctors won't be employed, more medics, more nurses won't be employed. When you cut down the budget, more schools won't be built, and therefore, if more schools are not built, more teachers are not employed, more children are not going to school and getting quality education. More roads won't be constructed. We need to cut down corruption and patrimonialism that President Ruto himself is encouraging, where he wants to please his people. So generally you see what has been happening even in the cabinet itself. We don't have a country here. We have a kiosk that's being run.
Well, that's Honorable Dr. Babu Owino, who is a member of the Budget and Appropriations Committee. At that juncture, we take a short commercial break. I invite your feedback via social media platforms at K.
Lift out the corruption budget items in that proposal and bring us the clean budget proposal to the House, and we'll adopt it and approve it.
Well, at that juncture, we take a short commercial break. Keep sending in your views. Of course, I'll be sampling some of them before wrapping up New Dawn this morning. Stay tuned.